The economic crisis rapidly unfolding across Europe will be drawn into sharp focus the next time fuel bills arrive for millions of households around the country. Bills that will not even reflect the hours of central heating that will be desperately needed as nights draw in and temperatures drop. As countless people will face a struggle, the likes of which we have not seen in many of our lifetimes, businesses up and down the country may also be forced to close. Businesses that were once the backbone of our high streets and the beating heart of Britain. Perhaps the two things most associated with our small island, the local pub and fish and chips, could be torn from our communities as they close their doors for the last time, unable to carry on. Joining me now is George Morey, who's the manager of Knight's Fish Restaurant in Glastonbury. George, I understand cooking oil's gone up 20%, cod up by an average 75%. That's even before you're getting the big energy bills that you're likely to see over winter. The outlook's bleak, isn't it? How are you going to manage?
Well, it's something that I think the government need to address, really, not just for domestic setting, but also for businesses, like you say. You consider the usage of your families at home, their gas supplies are very menial compared to what a business like ours has to use on a daily basis for 8 hours a day. You are burning that gas and it is costing you a fortune. You try and balance your prices out to absorb that, but at the same time, you can't whack those prices up because you don't want to lose your customers. So, our industry now is looking at that way of perhaps changing our opening hours, reducing our opening hours in such a way that people won't be able to come and have their fish and chips when they want to, that we'll have to dictate to them when they can have fish and chips.
Do you find when you look at your company's ledger that perhaps you were already in crisis and have this foreboding sense that things can only get worse?
I don't think so, strictly speaking. For us, we're a well-established business, family run for over 100 years. We've been through world wars and come out the other side. We've always found a way to make it work. However, I believe there is worrying, atmosphere for smaller, independent businesses that are perhaps just started and they have this overwhelming, cost increase that they have to consider. But for us, and I think overall we are a resilient industry. We may lose a few of the smaller businesses, but, we're doing our best, really.
Do you think it could reach the stage where you would have to think about shutting?
We're lucky. We have a restaurant and we're in quite a touristy part of the county of Somerset. Glastonbury has its very unique USP, really, of being quite alternative, quite free-spirited. For us, at least, we notice a decrease in what people are buying. But I think resiliency has been our motto, really. And I think people these days do understand that fish and chips isn't as cheap to get hold of as it used to be. So hopefully not.
Yeah, let's hope not either. Resilience really is a great word for the British and hopefully a great word for you and your industry. Thank you so much for coming on. That's George Morey, who's the manager at Knight's Fish Restaurant. Well, let's talk now to Christopher Snowdon, who's head of lifestyle economics at the Institute of Economic Affairs. Christopher, it's great to have you back on the programme. There we were talking about fish and chips. The other, great paradigm industry of the UK are our pubs. And today you've had bosses at 6 big pub chains saying many of their establishments will have to close and close for good. And that's not even looking at the independent pubs. How on earth can businesses carry on during winter if there's not government intervention?
I think it's going to be extremely difficult, and I guess some of them will close. Pubs are facing very similar pressures to fish and chip shops, and their inputs, beer's gone up, food's obviously gone up, and above all, you've got the gas and electricity going up. So, it's bad enough for a household spending, £1,000 a year on energy, and that's going up to £3,000, possibly £4,000. Then you look at a business that's got to bill of £15,000, £20,000, potentially going up as high as 80,000. Clearly, it's not affordable. Unfortunately, it's not also affordable for the government to bail out every single business because those costs are so great. I suspect that you will see businesses closing at least for winter, or maybe heavily reducing their opening hours. But yeah, it's an absolutely terrible position.
I mean, the government did intervene quite a lot during COVID when they launched the Eat Out to Help Out scheme, a scheme, of course, that has come under a fair amount of criticism. But do you think that they need to be regarding as a situation now with the same level of crisis and doing something extraordinary to make sure that small independent companies stay afloat?
I just don't think there is the money there. I mean, the government doesn't have any money. It's £2.4 trillion in debt. Debt has gone up enormously over the course of COVID. I mean, I just don't think that they have the ability to be borrowing without putting the country in very, very serious financial trouble, to the extent that in a few years we might have to default on our debts. I mean, £1 trillion of debt is bad enough. 2.4 trillion, which is what it is now, is colossal. Going up to 3 trillion. You know, the current handouts for people to pay their gas and electricity bills has come to about £37 billion. You will be looking at hundreds of billions of pounds in order to bail out businesses. And if you're going to bail out pubs and fish and chip shops, you have to bail out other businesses. They've all got they're all going to have the radiators on this winter. I mean, I think it's the road to ruin for the government finances. Unfortunately, we just don't have the credit really to carry on handing out money to people whenever there's a problem, even though this problem is very serious, as was COVID. I mean, the money really isn't there. The Bank of England isn't printing any more money, which is understandable given the rate of inflation. And so we would be paying significantly more to borrow more cash at this point, partly because interest rates have gone up and partly because inflation's gone up and partly because the government isn't doing any more quantitative easing. So I really don't think the government will seriously consider help on that scale.
And I mean, during COVID, we suddenly had bandied about this pretty horrific term, the new normal. And we saw people stuck at home ordering more and more things online, things being delivered to their door. Is there a risk that this economic crisis that we're now facing could really change the way that Britain looks? Quintessential British things like pubs and fish and chip shops, small businesses. Everyone always wants the local butcher and the local baker on their high street, but more and more those things are disappearing. Could the current crisis essentially sound the death knell of, the old normal?
I don't think so, really. I mean, things like the butcher and baker, they've been kind of superseded for a lot of people by supermarkets, whereas the fish and chip shop is something unique. You can't really get fish and chips like that anywhere else. Same with the experience of going to the pub. Of course, lots of things have been killing off the British pub for many, many years. Some regulatory things like the smoking ban, but often lots of just social changes. People have got nicer, warmer houses to live in. They've got nice big TVs and so on. So there are more alternatives to people as compared to the 1970s. So, pubs have been in steady decline. I think that even if there are closures over the course of the winter, I would expect the pub industry to bounce back.